I remain motionless on the graduation platform, my blue synthetic robe feeling suddenly oppressive, too weighty, too warm against my flesh. Alden Whitlow, the man who has served as my adoptive father for 16 years, approaches the lectern with that familiar purposeful gait I've witnessed countless times during his business gatherings. It's the stride of someone who commands every space he occupies. The diploma case slips from my grasp. The leather folder strikes the wooden platform with a muted impact that seems to register only with me. Pardon the interruption, everyone. Alden's voice resonates through the sound system, startling several attendees. His steel-gray hair glints in the late afternoon light filtering through the gymnasium's windows. I must make a significant announcement concerning Maris, my daughter. Well, supposedly my daughter. The phrase lingers in the atmosphere like something delicate, ready to break. But she isn't truly my child, is she? His grin fails to illuminate his eyes. Genetics are indisputable. A unified intake of breath sweeps through the assembly of 370 attendees. The climate control system drones above us, suddenly becoming the most prominent noise imaginable. You share no blood with me. Your educational trust fund has been terminated. Startings immediately. My breath catches. My gaze sweeps across the gathering, countless mobile devices aimed in my direction, capturing what was meant to be my most triumphant occasion. Community college commencement wasn't an Ivy League ceremony, but it belonged to me. Not anymore. Someone murmurs, "Has he been drinking?" But I understand better. Alden abstains from alcohol. He strategizes. What he remains unaware of is that I've been strategizing as well. My shaking fingers touch the creased laboratory document tucked within my graduation robe's pocket, the evidence that reveals something far more damaging than my absence of biological ties to him. The document I intended to present to him privately the following week after securing my apartment down payment. Circumstances have shifted. I was 3 years old when the Whitlows brought me into their family from Ohio's foster care system. 3 different homes in 18 months had trained me to observe grown-ups carefully, anticipating what behaviors might cause them to remove me. The Whitlow residence was massive, frigid marble flooring and resonating corridors. Yet Laura, my adoptive mother, established warm spaces within its walls. "The house is merely an exterior," she would murmur as we prepared cookies in the immaculate kitchen, her gentle palms guiding mine, instructing me to incorporate chocolate pieces into the mixture without crushing them. Alden operated differently. With him, affection was transactional. Perfect report cards generated a restrained smile. Flawless piano performances resulted in a shoulder pat. When I claimed victory at the state science competition at age 12, he finally declared, "You might amount to something eventually." I mastered the art of navigating his performance-based love through excellence. A+ grades. First chair positions. Valedictorian status. Each achievement represented another installment toward acceptance. Now I compel myself to smile, not the anxious expression he anticipates, but the composed smile Laura taught me for challenging situations. When someone attempts to shame you, she once advised, dignity becomes your most powerful tool. My pulse thunders against my chest, yet I square my shoulders and move purposefully toward the microphone. Fleeing would satisfy him. Weeping would fuel tomorrow's campus rumors. Neither option serves my interests. The murmurs intensify as I near the podium. Alden retreats, momentarily bewildered by my self-control. He anticipated tears or panic, not this quiet resolve. Mr. Whitlow raises a valid concern regarding biological relationships, I state, my voice more stable than I feel internally. The microphone carries each syllable throughout the shocked gymnasium. Family transcends genetics. My hands cease their trembling. I retrieve the laboratory report from my pocket and unfold it, the document comparing Gideon's DNA to Uncle Colton's. Not to establish my family connection, but to expose a more disturbing reality. Shocked whispers ripple through the audience as they comprehend the unfolding situation. Parents cover younger children's ears. An elderly woman in row 3 fans herself with her program. The college administrator rises partially from his seat, uncertain whether to interfere. I glance toward Alden. His assured expression dissolves as he recognizes what I'm holding. The memory resurfaces. I first noticed the inconsistency on a Tuesday afternoon last month while organizing Sabine's schedule in the family's shared digital calendar, a responsibility she'd assigned to me, claiming my exceptional organizational abilities would benefit everyone. Every Tuesday, 2 o'clock to 4 p.m., Pilates with Jen. Except Jen's facility closed at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. I knew this because I'd transported Sabine there once when her vehicle was being serviced. This calendar entry might have remained merely another of Sabine's minor deceptions if I hadn't spotted Uncle Colton's vehicle outside the Fairview Hotel that identical Tuesday. His usual golf session mysteriously moved to Wednesday each week. The schedule was displayed on my laptop when 3-year-old Gideon wandered into my bedroom uninvited, clutching his plush dinosaur. Memory game, he insisted, climbing onto my bed with toddler determination. I turned to inform him I was occupied when the afternoon sunlight illuminated his profile. My stomach contracted as if I'd been struck. How had I never observed the distinctive Whitlow nose that Alden shared with his siblings? The feature I'd studied in family photographs was absent from Gideon's face. Instead, his nose curved precisely like Uncle Colton's. Identical deep-set eyes, matching cleft chin. Not Alden's son. My fingers quivered as I closed the laptop. The consequences crashed through my mind like an avalanche. If Gideon wasn't Alden's biological child, then the funds from my college account that had mysteriously transformed into Gideon's education trust had been redirected to a child who wasn't even Alden's offspring. Sick? Gideon inquired, noticing my sudden paleness. I managed a smile and tousled his hair. Just thinking, buddy. What would you like to play? The child who had unknowingly become both my substitute and my adversary bore no responsibility. But the adults who had orchestrated this elaborate charade would face consequences. That evening, crystal stemware chimed against fine china as Sabine commanded the formal dining area. She occupied Laura's seat, a position she'd claimed within weeks of marrying Alden, directing the household staff with rehearsed authority. Additional asparagus for Mr. Whitlow. Maris should have finished her meal by now. And Gideon requires his milk in the blue cup, not the green one, she instructed the housekeeper with the smooth confidence of someone who had always belonged. I moved Brussels sprouts around my plate, observing Gideon across the table. Now that I'd recognized it, the similarity to Colton was undeniable. Your father and I have been reviewing your university plans, Sabine declared, her voice carrying the artificial cheerfulness she employed for public undermining. We've examined the finances, and community college truly seems more suitable for your circumstances. My utensil scraped against the china with a harsh sound. My circumstances. Alden cleared his throat. The trust your mother and I created has been transferred to Gideon's account. He represents our future now. The trust was designated for my education, I stated, weighing each word carefully. Harvard was the objective since I was 10. Objectives change, Sabine responded, sectioning her chicken into uniform pieces. Community college is entirely respectable for someone in your position. After all, you're not truly a Whitlow. The statement cut through the room, creating silence in its aftermath. 3 days later, the email from the testing laboratory arrived during my campus library shift. I waited until my break to access it, hands trembling as I clicked the attachment. The PDF loaded gradually, displaying charts and percentages I barely comprehended until my eyes fixed on the conclusion. 99.8% probability that Gideon James Whitlow and Colton Edward Whitlow share a direct paternal relationship. Uncle Colton was Gideon's father. I stared at the screen, an odd tranquility replacing weeks of anxiety. Evidence, concrete, irrefutable proof of their deception. Now, standing before this microphone, holding this evidence, I've spent 16 years attempting to earn my position in the only family I've known. 16 years of conditional love and measured affection. Of treading carefully in my own residence. Today I select truth over belonging. Tomorrow I may possess nothing. No family, no educational funding, no residence. But in this moment, as Alden's face drains of color, I finally possess the power. And I intend to exercise it. The invitation to Gideon's first birthday celebration arrived in my mailbox 4 days later, not via email, but an embossed cream envelope with golden lettering. I traced my finger over the raised script, remembering how Laura would preserve special announcements on proper stationery. Some moments deserve more permanence than a screen, she'd say. However, 3 days before the celebration, Sabine called. About Saturday, she said, her tone deliberately casual. We've had to reduce the guest list. Fire marshal concerns. I pressed the phone closer to my ear. Fire marshal concerns for a 1-year-old's birthday party? You understand, she said. It wasn't a question. I understood perfectly. I understood that 38 of Alden's business associates and their spouses would witness Sabine's performance as the perfect Whitlow matriarch. I understood that my presence would complicate her narrative. The following Tuesday, Alden summoned me to his study. The room carried the scent of lemon furniture polish and lingering notes of his sandalwood cologne. We're disposing of the house, he announced without introduction, standing behind his mahogany desk, back to the window so the afternoon sun created a halo effect around his silver hair. The market's favorable, and Gideon deserves a fresh beginning. My childhood residence. The garden where Laura taught me to recognize songbirds. The kitchen where she allowed me to assist with holiday baking. The window seat where I first read classic literature. When? I managed to ask. Listing becomes active next week. The real estate agent recommends we commence renovations immediately. The renovations began within days. Somehow, during the chaos of contractors and interior designers, my belongings started vanishing. Initially, it was minor items, a framed photograph of Laura and me at the Botanical Gardens, a ceramic mug I created in 7th grade art class. Then larger possessions disappeared. My collection of first edition classics that Laura helped me build. The quilt her mother had sewn for my 10th birthday. When I inquired about them, Sabine's eyes widened with rehearsed concern. They must have been mistakenly packed with the donation items. I'll investigate. She never did. After the 3rd accidental disappearance, I stopped asking. Instead, I began carrying my most treasured possessions in my backpack, Laura's vintage timepiece, the acceptance letter to my community college honors program, the small jade elephant she brought back from her final trip abroad. The constant vigilance exhausted me. I found myself hesitating before entering rooms in what was once my home, calculating my movements, timing bathroom visits for when Sabine was occupied elsewhere, consuming quick meals while standing at the kitchen counter rather than risking the dining room table. One night I awakened at 3 a.m., heart racing, certain someone was in my room. The handle rotates quietly, allowing hallway light to seep in. I remain motionless, maintaining steady breathing as Sabine's shadow hesitates at the entrance. Following 30 seconds of quiet, she shuts the door once more. The following day, I purchase a rubber door wedge. That same afternoon, I begin keeping a detailed log, recording everything with precise accuracy, dates, timestamps, verbatim conversations. I secretly record discussions on my phone whenever Sabine or Alden walks into any room. This accumulating evidence serves as my shield against psychological manipulation. My verification that these experiences are real. Do you recall when Laura used to write those comprehensive travel journals? I inquire one evening, testing if her memory retains any influence. His face becomes stern. Your mother was overly sentimental. Your mother, not Laura. The emotional distance in that phrase reveals everything. Following my advanced writing course the next Thursday, Professor Ellis requests I remain afterward. She's petite with gray-streaked brunette hair, wearing reading glasses suspended from a beaded necklace. Your piece about chosen family touched me deeply, she mentions after other students depart. She pushes the paper toward me across her desk. Not my assignment, but a scholarship application. You merit an opportunity, despite others' opinions, she murmurs. The Foster Youth Educational Support Grant, completely funded. The document quivers in my grasp. That evening, I gather courage to confront Alden. I locate him in his study, examining papers while Sabine entertains her monthly social gathering below. Voices and periodic laughter drift upward through the wooden floors. I must address my educational fund, I state, maintaining perfect posture in the entrance. He avoids eye contact. Nothing requires discussion. Money has been redirected to Gideon for superior investments. He eventually looks at me. You ought to appreciate our taking you in. Most orphan children never receive this much. The statement strikes like a physical assault, yet I maintain steady eye contact. Appreciation doesn't equal accepting treachery. Mother, Laura, would be disgusted with you. His expression transforms momentarily. I believe he might hit me. Instead, he produces a cold, contemptuous laugh that emphasizes my powerlessness. However, something changes within me then. This transcends my future now. It concerns Laura's legacy, her principles, everything she attempted teaching me about family and honor. The following morning, Professor Ellis connects me with Jackson in student aid. He examines my circumstances with professional efficiency that makes me feel less like receiving charity and more like a student with choices. Foster youth classification provides priority status, he clarifies, marking my paperwork. Professor Ellis and I will secure emergency assistance to cover expenses. When I attempt gratitude, Professor Ellis dismisses it. We're simply fulfilling our responsibilities, Marcus. You're handling the difficult part. Their straightforward assistance contrasts dramatically with the Whitlow's calculated schemes. These unfamiliar people listen without prejudice, acknowledge my experiences without questioning my intentions, and provide tangible assistance without demanding emotional compensation. Their confidence in me grants permission to speak more frankly, plan more courageously, to organize my retaliation. 14 days before commencement, I practice my valedictorian address in the vacant theater. My voice resonates through empty seating rows. The authorized version praises determination and thankfulness. Secure, unremarkable thoughts that the administration commended. The version I memorized differs significantly. Will this function? I ask Marcus from Audiovisual Club while he tests equipment. He signals approval. Once broadcasting begins, you continue broadcasting, regardless of who attempts disconnecting your microphone. On graduation morning, I fasten my blue synthetic gown with controlled hands. In my pocket rests the laboratory analysis comparing Gideon's DNA to Uncle Colton's, the revelation that will transform everything. Stepping onto the ceremony platform, I observe Alden in the 5th row, his pleased expression indicating he anticipates his planned actions. What he doesn't realize is my equal preparation. For the first time in months, I experience something resembling authority growing within me. Returning to the present moment. Following my father's rejection, I stand before the microphone, my graduation cap weighing heavily, the cord swaying with minor movements. 370 pairs of eyes concentrate on me. The burden of their anticipation presses against my ribcage. Yet I've prepared for this instant. The air conditioning drones overhead, suddenly the most prominent sound imaginable. A peculiar tranquility settles over me, the type accompanying a long-expected catastrophe's arrival. This perfectly matches what I prepared for, his compulsion to dominate the story, to publicly shame me before I could reveal my truth. He's provided the ideal opportunity. In the shocked silence following, I observe understanding spreading across audience faces. Mrs. Hensley, who has known the Whitlows 20 years, shields her mouth with a shaking hand. Mr. Jacobson, Alden's golfing companion, examines his footwear. Even strangers appear disturbed witnessing such intentional cruelty. Alden's standing, constructed through decades of carefully orchestrated public presentations, crumbles within seconds. Whispers start at the rear and advance like spreading flames. Did he actually disown her during graduation? Who treats their child that way? Is he experiencing some breakdown? When Alden seized the microphone, I had moments to choose. Should I announce the DNA findings publicly, making his betrayal as exposed as mine? Or maintain dignity and depart gracefully? Would justice facilitate healing? Or simply generate additional harm? Before I can respond, Professor Ellis stands from her position and walks purposefully toward the platform. Her silver hair is secured in its characteristic tidy style, academic robes flowing as she advances. She climbs the steps deliberately, then positions herself beside me, her hand steady on my shoulder. Maris, she states clearly, her voice projecting without amplification. I believe this belongs to you. She presents an envelope bearing the university emblem. I identify it instantly, the scholarship acceptance letter we developed over months. The document proving I don't require Alden's financing. From the lateral entrance, Jackson emerges. The financial counselor whose office became my second home recently. He approaches the stage with measured steps, carrying another envelope. Miss Whitlow, he announces formally, using my legal surname with intentional emphasis. Your supplementary funding received approval. He delivers the second envelope, then retreats with a slight acknowledgement. The audience observes this quiet demonstration of support, evidence that I'm not isolated, that Alden's dismissal doesn't determine my worth. Several attendees began applauding hesitantly at first, then with increasing conviction. Throughout the gymnasium, I notice Sabine's carefully maintained facade beginning to crack. Her fingers grip her luxury handbag, so firmly her knuckles pale. She whispers frantically to her neighbor, but the woman shifts away slightly, unwilling to associate with the unfolding situation. Near the rear exits, I spot a man with media credentials taking notes. Another raises a phone, obviously recording. This has evolved beyond a graduation ceremony into a newsworthy event. President Thornton finally recovers his voice and approaches the microphone. "Perhaps we should proceed with the ceremony," he suggests, his tone attempting normalcy. But I reach for the microphone with steady hands, feeling the laboratory report's weight in my pocket. "Actually," I state clearly, "I believe everyone needs to hear something." I remain firm as Alden approaches the podium, his expensive Italian shoes striking the stage with calculated authority. His checkbook emerges from his jacket, a familiar weapon. The audience murmurs, phone still recording as he forces a smile that fails to mask his stern expression. "Maris." His voice projects too loudly for our proximity. "Let's address this privately." His hand shakes slightly as he activates his expensive pen. "State your price." A year ago, this moment would have petrified me. Now I feel strangely peaceful, like observing a tempest through reinforced glass. "Truth has no price, Alden." He moves closer, voice becoming a harsh whisper. "There will be repercussions if you continue this theatrical display. Consider what you're discarding." The former Maris would have assessed risks, evaluated alternatives, withdrawn. But I've spent 16 years calculating, and now the formula finally balances. "I already understand the repercussions," I respond steadily. "I've experienced them daily since Mom's death." I take the microphone, conscious of every gaze in the gymnasium following my actions. Professor Ellis provides a small nod from the faculty area. My friend Trey signals encouragement from the technical booth. "Family transcends genetics, as Mr. Whitlow mentioned." I begin, which makes my recent discovery particularly troubling. "What I've never revealed to you, Alden," I continue speaking, "is that your financial support was ultimately unnecessary. I secured a complete merit-based scholarship to Dartmouth while maintaining a 30-hour weekly schedule at the campus library." Applause begins from the back rows and moves forward through the crowd. Professor Ellis displays a broad smile, her hands clapping with intentional emphasis. "You imparted a crucial lesson about the nature of family." I carefully fold the laboratory report. It stands on genuine foundations, not mere convenience. "When you determined I wasn't worth preserving, I decided that concealing the truth served no purpose." Alden sinks into the closest chair like a puppet whose strings have been severed. I observe a beaded bracelet around his wrist, made of stone. I crafted it for him on Father's Day, when I was 7 years old. Seeing it creates an unexpected ache in my chest. Sabine maneuvers past knees and handbags toward the exit, her heels striking the floor like punctuation marks of anger. Several attendees attempt to catch her sleeve as she passes, their mouths forming unspoken questions. She disregards them entirely. On the screen behind me, a small counter in the corner continues ascending. 12,000 viewers, then 18,000, then 24,000. Someone is broadcasting this live on Instagram. By evening, everyone within 5 counties will know precisely what transpired in this gymnasium. "Congratulations to my fellow graduates," I announce, stepping back from the microphone. "May we all construct lives founded on truth." I retrieve my diploma case from the floor where I had dropped it earlier. As my fingers brush across the leather interior, I detect something different, additional weight. Opening it, I discover an envelope nestled beside my diploma, my name inscribed in handwriting I haven't encountered in 4 years. It's my mother's handwriting. To be opened at graduation, it reads. Whispers circulate through the audience regarding Sabine's abrupt departure alongside Gideon. Someone mentions divorce proceedings already in preparation. The college president approaches me, his expression carefully balancing concern with damage control. However, I barely acknowledge any of it. The letter in my grasp feels impossibly weighty, as though all the words my mother never had the opportunity to express have been concentrated into this single envelope. I remain uncertain about what lies ahead, whether Alden will attempt to repair what's been damaged, or if I'll encounter Gideon again. Whether this family that was never truly mine will completely disintegrate or somehow transform itself. What I do know is that for the first time since Laura's passing, I experienced something resembling freedom. 1 year later, my 380-square-foot studio apartment near Dartmouth is bathed in morning sunlight. Though compact, it belongs to me in every meaningful way. The contrast between this warm sanctuary and the Whitlow Mansion's marble sterility continues to strike me daily. I arrange framed photographs on my reclaimed wood desk, snapshots from my volunteer work at the Boston Foster Youth Center. Children's faces shine back at me, trusting and inquisitive. Last week, a 7-year-old girl with auburn braids tugged at my sleeve and inquired why I visit every Saturday. The response came naturally, because everyone deserves someone who consistently appears. The kettle signals on my 2-burner stove. I pour hot water over coffee grounds, cherishing the ritual's simplicity. No household staff, no performative breakfast gatherings where affection depended on accomplishment. Simply me embracing the morning stillness. A text from Professor Ellis illuminates my phone screen. Ready for today? As prepared as I'll ever be, I respond, smoothing my navy blouse. Later, standing before 30 teenagers at the Foster Youth Mentorship event, I grasp the podium's edge. Their faces reflect my past, cautious, hopeful, calculating the probability of disappointment. My adoption journey begins with loss. I start, my voice steadier than my emotions, and continues with choices, both those made for me and those I eventually made for myself. A girl in the front row leans forward attentively. Something in her posture reminds me of myself at 16, already strategizing escape routes from every situation. For years, I believed family meant biological connection or legal documentation. I continue. I was mistaken. Family isn't determined by birth circumstances. It's defined by those you choose to build truth alongside. The words feel authentic in my delivery, earned through adversity. As I discuss chosen bonds versus blood relationships, I observe understanding emerging across their faces. They've already lived this reality. These children with aged eyes. When I conclude, their applause washes over me like forgiveness. Not for past events, but for who I've become despite them. That evening, a small gathering fills my modest apartment. Professor Ellis brings homemade bread, still warm from her oven. Jackson from financial aid carries a potted plant, something that flourishes for your new space. New friends from the volunteer center crowd onto my second-hand sofa, their laughter authentic. We raise mismatched glasses in celebration. To the family we create, Jackson declares, not the one we're assigned. The words resonate in my chest long after their departure. I settle into my window seat, unfolding Laura's letter discovered in my graduation folder. Inside a scrapbook titled, Why We Chose You, are photographs I've never seen. Laura holding 3-year-old me, her face radiant with genuine joy. Her letter expresses love without conditions, hopes without demands. The final page contains my Dartmouth acceptance letter and an invitation to join a foster advocacy internship program, both placed there months before her death, as if she had anticipated what was approaching. A knock interrupts my reflections. Opening the door, I find Alden standing in the hallway, appearing diminished somehow, clutching a notarized document with trembling hands, the restoration of my college trust fund. As I stand facing Alden for the first time since graduation, I contemplate whether certain bridges can be carefully reconstructed while others should remain permanently crossed. Would you accept his attempt at reconciliation, or would you maintain the independence you fought so determinately to establish? What does genuine forgiveness look like when the person who wounded you still possesses fragments of your past?